Hey everyone, back again to the Dark Souls Trilogy, and once again, I asked y'all to pick which run I should do, and y'all picked Leveling Faith only. Looks like y'all want to see some divine justice, so this is me taking on the Dark Souls Trilogy, while only leveling Faith. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these, or just like seeing me suffer. And if you want to be notified when a new video drops, make sure to join my Discord because it does a better job of it than YouTube. I also have a second channel where I post stream highlight videos and a VOD channel for those who like to see unedited versions of some of my runs. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, I can only level Faith and no other stat. Rule number 2, no summons, gotta do all that dirty work on my own. Number 3, I will have to rank all 3 games at the end to see which game did Faith only the best and suffer the wrath of the comment section. And lastly, rule number 4, beat all bosses. With the rules out of the way, let's get this adventure started. Starting off in Dark Souls 1, I picked the Knight class. The reason for this is that the Knight has 11 in strength and dex, which will help with the weapon that I will need to wield. It has a 10 in attunement, so that gives me 1 spell slot, 14 in vitality, which means more HP, and 11 in faith, which is still a good start for this run. After picking the class, I named my character Slayer of Ass? Well, the game has spoken, Slayer of Ass it is. With my character made, I hastily grab my shield and sword so that I can take out Lemon's evil twin, Lime. After smiting Lime, I did the old song and dance of plunging the Asylum Demon from above and then giving him some divine beatings to his derriere. With the Asylum Demon taken care of, I can make my way to Firelink Shrine where I can gather some items, but most importantly, the Morning Star. The Morning Star isn't a faith-scaling weapon, but is used by a lot of faith-believing people back in the day to divine smash a few skulls. Once having the Morning Star, I unlock the Valley of the Drakes so that I can grab the Dragon Crest Shield and the Astoria's Straight Sword. The Astoria's Straight Sword is the only faith-scaling weapon that I can use. All the others require much more stat requirements than this one. The sword has a C scaling in faith, has a 120 divine auxiliary effect, can only be upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, and can't be buffed with resins or spells. With my fate sealed with a bit of suffering, I then pop some souls to get my faith to 18 and use those 7 points to smite the Taurus demon from above. The real satisfying and not so satisfying part of this fight was that I was dealing a 101 damage, which made me want to get 777, but tragically, the Taurus demon died at 555. 1 hit away from hell, 2 hits away from salvation. Now, you might be thinking I came this way first to get the Sunlight Altar, but in actuality, it was to get the White Soap Stone from fake Solaire, and take what is rightfully mine. Look away, children! You don't want to see this. Ah, now that feels better. Now I feel like the real Solaire Bass. Not only does this give me some armor to wear, but also gives me the Sunlight Talisman, which is the second strongest talisman in the game. So when I do get spells, I'll be ready. I know some of you might not be happy about me killing Solaire, but I just want to point out, he did die happy instead of depressed, so I see that as me doing Gwen's work. Currently, my faith is at 21, so I can't use the Sunlight Altar yet, since I need 25 faith to do so. So instead, I hunt down a Crystal Lizard for some Twinkling Titanites and use those 2 shards to get my sword to +2. With that done, I unlock the shortcut to Firelink Shrine to be able to take on the Stray Demon, and here's where the Morning Star comes into play. The Morning Star deals bleed damage, which will take a good chunk of health off the boss once it procs. So I channeled my inner nun and went to town paddling some demon ass. With Stray Demon giving me 20,000 souls, I can get my faith to 30, which means I can now join the Warrior of Sunlight Covenant to get my first faith damaging spell, Lightning Spear. As the name states, it's a lightning bolt that you can smite your foes with, especially the non-believers. Speaking of non-believers, I hereby sentence you to death, Lotric of Karim, because I need your ring and because Gwen told me to in my dreams. And yes, I know I pronounced that name wrong, we can get over it. After doing Gwen's work, I tried to do some jolly cooperations as the real Solaire and no one summoned me. You see, to get Sunlight Medals early on, you can be summoned by other players to help them with boss fights. and upon beating the boss, you will get a medal, which I need 10 of to get Great Lightning Spear. Except after waiting for about 20 minutes, nothing happened. So feeling rejected and neglected, I took my anger and frustration out like any wrathful god-serving individual and started smiting things left and right. In this case, the things are the bell gargoyles, and as you can see, Lightning Spear does some big damage to them. With the gargoyles electrified to death, I talk with Mr. Onion Knight to move his quest forward so that I can get him at Force later on. I then remember I forgot about a crystal lizard near the Taurus demon fights and made sure to kill it to get 2 more shards to then upgrade my sword to +3. With that done, I head to Blighttown to try once again to be summoned, and Gwen behold, I was finally summoned. Also, I would like to point out the rules state I cannot summon for help. I never said I couldn't be a summon for someone else. Praise the sun, Antivent, my hero, and praise the sun to you, Mildred. Well, damn, we're about to have a foursome in this bitch. Being the true Soul Layer, I had to show off my lightning abilities here by spamming lightning spears, and I forgot how beefy the bosses gets when you have multiple summons in one fight. But once running out of spears, I jumped into action with my mighty sword that only does 67 damage. Well, isn't that a bit embarrassing that Mildred can hit harder than me? Either way, with the power of sun, ants, and man-eating, we defeated the mighty Quelaag. And I tried to run over to celebrate, but I got fucking yeeted before I could do so. With a successful win, I get a medal, which means I just need 9 more, so I place my sign down again, and nothing. I waited for about 15 to 20 minutes, and no one summoned me again. Well, fuck this jolly cooperation crap. I'm going back to being an introvert. I do want to say, Antivent, you probably won't see this, but you're the real MVP here, my man. With that said, I chunk all my lightning bolts at Quelaag until she died. With Quelaag defeated and still suffering from my rejection, I unleash my wrath upon to her brother, for his sister's crimes are also his. Gotta keep the masses in line somehow. After those easy wins, I get my faith to 40 and figured I would take on the Hydra with my powerful lightning spears that apparently can't reach. Well, fuck me then, I guess. The fun part here was that I lopped off all the heads except for the annoying one. I tried again to hit the body and it was just too far away to hit with the spear. So I had to head snipe it with a lightning bolt to finish it off, earning me the Dust Crown Ring. While here, I also saved Dust just to get stuff set up for the DLC. Now, the smart move here would be to get the Crown of Dust to increase spell damage, but with me being Solaire and all, I didn't want to take off the helmet, so I just took the handicap to damage. With that said, I head into Sin's Fortress to get 2 large Titanite shards for the Morning Star, thinking I had gotten the large Ember, but come to find out I didn't. So I hopped on over to the Capra Demon fight, where I made a crucial mistake of not having my sword in my left hand. The reason I normally do this is to avoid hitting the wall on the right hand side, but I forgot to do it this time, leading to me struggling to kill one of the dogs, and due to that struggle, I fell down with the dog and Capra Demon, putting me in a pretty bad situation where I couldn't get out, causing me to die. So, for round 2, I made sure to go in this time with my sword in my left hand and had no issues dispatching the 2 dogs, leaving just the Capra Demon left, who felt the might of my divine lightning spears. With the Capra Demon out of the picture, I can get the large Ember. This is where I would also save Laurentius to get the Pyromancy Flame so that I could use Power Within, but I figured I would spice things up this time and not use it. What? Did I still rescue him? No, he's still stuck in the barrel down there. But that's on him for being a Chaos Bro and not a Sun Bro. With now having the large Ember, I get my Morning Star to +8, talk to Onion Bro for a bit, and take on the Iron Golem. For this fight, I decided to equip the Dust Crown Ring for extra cast of lightning spears. I knew Iron Golem was weak to lightning, but wasn't too sure if 10 bolts was going to be enough. Once having the ring on, my strategy was to run between the Golem's legs to bait out an attack from him, giving me enough time to get Lightning Spear off. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that Lightning Spear has a fairly long casting time. The great thing about the spell is you can move while casting it, but the long casting time does become a bit more of a problem later on. Either way, I just kept my strategy up until I won, and come to find out, I didn't need the extra cast after all. After the electrifying fights, I get my faith to 47, pop some souls to be able to buy Twinkling Titanite shards so that I could upgrade my sword to +4, and then take on Ornstein and Smo. So, my big brain idea was to just use the Morning Star for bleed damage, and I got it up to +8 just to help with chip damage, But where I messed up was that I thought Ornstein was the one weak to bleed, when in actuality, it's Smo who is weak to bleed. Well, that's what I get for not playing the game in about a month or so. I gave this idea 2 tries until I realized it wasn't going to work. I then shifted on over to Gwendolyn since his fight is just a hallway simulator, and once beating Gwendolyn, I can get the Sunlight Blade, which is very strong weapon buff that increases your weapons damage by 1.8 of your magic adjustment stat on your talisman. But even with that buff, my Morningstar only did 47 more damage than before, which isn't much. Probably one of the downsides in the Faith only and Init only runs is that weapon buffs aren't that great like they are in normal runs. Except for in DS2, they're still very viable. At this moment, I had 2 options: run down to the Catacombs to get the Gravelord spells or switch to Astora. And I chose the sword because I didn't think the Gravelord spells would be worth all the trouble. Astora's straight sword actually did okay damage without a buff and only being +4. Things were going pretty well on my 4th attempt until Ornstein had a 1 HP in a dream moment and kept reducing my HP into critical condition. I thought for a second it was going to be all over, but I was able to pull it out at the end. With Smo being the only one left and fairly weak to lightning, I just had to sit behind some pillars to get some bolts off, and once out of bolts, I just finished him with the Astora's straight sword. With ONS defeated, I get the Lord Vessel, level my faith to 54, and head down into the Catacombs to fight Pinwheel. I was a bit shocked that I didn't one-shot him here. I honestly thought Lightning Spear could do it, but I guess not. The really interesting thing here is, when Pinwheel teleported away to do his big Shadow Clone no Jutsu, I casted Lightning Spear early in hopes he would spawn in time, but as you can see in slow-mo here, he wasn't around at the time. I thought I fucked up here, and then all of a sudden, this happened. I have no clue if he just spawned in and the water lightning got him, or if I hit him while he was invisible. But it threw me for a loop. If by chance any of you knows what happened here, let me know in the comments. After that weird encounter, I nabbed Scully, beat up 2 hollow noobs, and rescued the lady in white, so that I could buy Wrath of the Gods from her. Wrath of the Gods is a force spell that shoots out all around you, knocking back enemies while dealing massive damage. Probably the fastest offensive miracle spell in the game. Once having the Wrath of the Gods, I go back to Andor Londo to help out Onion Knight with his Silver Knight problem, and my reward for helping him is the Emit Force, which is a projectile force attack that does okay damage. I remember it doing more damage than this, but I guess I'm just remembering wrong. I then head back to the Catacombs to get the Dark Moon Seance Ring to now have 2 spell slots. Speaking of new spells, I was ready for Great Lightning Spear, but did not want to farm Sunlight Medals, so I hit up Scully to help me out.
No worries, Sunbroski, I got you.
With now having the 10 medals, I can get the Big Brother version of Lightning Spear. Unfortunately, I can't get Sunlight Spear here since you have to beat Gwen for that one, which makes it a New Game Plus spell. After getting the new spell, I place the Lord Vessel and test out some of my new spells on the Fire Sage. Some of you might be wondering, why am I not using the Ring of the Sun Firstborn? Well, I did get it back when I beat Gwendolyn, but decided to not use it yet, since I figured having the extra HP and the 2 spell slots, it would help more than the 20% damage increase. With that said, I only had to use Great Lightning Spear to beat Fire Sage. Right after this fight, I took on the Centipede Demon and probably made the bad call of just trying to use force spells because I didn't take into account the Centipede Demon's AI to be a dick. He literally kept hanging out by the lava, so I couldn't get next to him, and eventually he got me. After that, I amazingly kept walking into the lava, dying a total of 4 times. But finally, on the 5th attempt, I was able to get some hits in. Wrath of the Gods did some solid damage at 481. The downside here is that it only has 3 casts. Now, Emit Force has 6 casts, but the damage is 86 less. Both of these spells are good, but feel more suited for PvP than PvE. I am confident in saying Greater Lightning Spear out DPSs both of them and has more casts than both of them combined. Even though they might not be the best, they can still get the job done. After this, I of course killed the Bed of Chaos, nothing new here. I then level my faith to 61, take out Lemon's waifu to get a +3 Estus, and then head to the Duke Archives, where I killed the Ice Golem for the pendant, one-shot Seath's bodyguard because why not, and take on Seath himself. Seath wasn't anything special. If you watch any of my previous videos before, you know you can just loop Seath by walking in a circle. The only surprising part was the fact that all 10 Greater Lightning Spears did not kill Seath. Also, this is a good example of the damage difference between Greater Lightning Spear and Emit Force. Emit Force did 218 damage, while Greater Lightning Spear did 506. Which does make me think the 6 cast cost for Emit Force was due to PvP balance and not PvE. With Seath out of the picture, I get my sword to its final upgrade and take on Sif, where Wrath of the Gods came in really handy with getting hits off on Sif. Sif can be a bit hard to hit sometimes, so the AoE range of the spell made it very easy not to miss. Once I was out of cast for Wrath, I switched between getting chip damage in with my sword and getting lightning bolts off. I was hoping to kill the poor girl before she went into her weakened state, but sadly that was not the case, and I had to smite her down while she was on her last leg. After that easy win, I make sure to get the Hornet Ring for the Gwen fight. While leveling up, I was debating to go do the 4 Kings now because I knew I would have to take the FAP ring off to do so. So instead of losing out on that extra HP, I decided to go take on the DLC instead, and I'm happy to say that was the right call. First up in the DLC gauntlet is the Sanctuary Guardian, who has a very high lightning resistance, so I had to use Wrath of the Gods and Emit Force. And yeah, y'all probably could already guess this, but the damage wasn't too great. Oh well, gotta work with what I got. For each spell, I found a few openings that worked well for them. For Emit Force, the only time I found I could get it off was after the Guardian would do his dive bomb attack. Wrath of the Gods, on the other hand, since it's quick, I could get it off after his headbutt attack or when he does his slam attack. Once I was out of spells, I had to do this the old-fashioned way of waiting for dive bombs and slam attacks to get a hit or two in until the big cat went down. With the electric kitty dealt with, it was time for Artorias. For this fight, I went with the Great Lightning Spear and Wrath of the Gods. Something I wish I did here that I do later on is that I could have Wrath of the Gods on the second spell slot. So once done using it, I could then switch the Seance Ring for the Sun's Ring, so that the Lightning Spear would do 20% more damage. Which would have made this fight a lot easier, but sadly I did not think of this strategy until during the Calamity fight, and don't use it until the Manus fight. With that said, I found the best time to get Greater Lightning Spear off was right after Artorias does his jump attack, and right when he finishes buffing up. You can use Lightning Spear after other attacks, but I found it too risky since Artorias can get to you before you can roll. For Wrath of the Gods, you can use this spell on any of his normal openings. With this spell being so fast, you really have a lot of options to get this one off, and if you land every spell, Artorias will only have about a fourth of its HP left, so it's then an easy finish with the Astorius Straight Sword. After that well-fought fight, I level my faith to 72, grab the crest key, sweet talk a giant into handicapping a dragon for me, so that I could reenact the war against the dragons. Calamite was really straightforward. I just ran underneath him to get Wrath of the Gods off, and when Calamite was breathing fire, I would shoot him with lightning bolts. Unfortunately, with getting all the spells off, the HP sponge still had half of his health left, so I just had to fight him normally after that. Where it did get a bit spicy near the end, which made me super happy I didn't get rid of the FAP ring yet. But after that close call, I was able to slay the dragon, which means it's Manus time. Alright, so y'all already know from me telling y'all earlier what the plan is going to be here. So, starting off, I get 3 Wrath of the Gods off. Once those are all used up, I wait for Manus to do his flailing attack, so that it will give me enough time to replace the rings. From here, I just bait out his long-range attacks for me to get Greater Lightning Spear off. With Manus having so much HP and elemental resistance, I stop after 5 casts to save the remaining 5 casts for near the end of the fight to speed things up. From this point, I just fight Manus normally until he was around a fourth of his HP to start using Lightning Spear again. Which I got a bit cocky trying to get 2 off in a row, almost causing my own demise, but I was able to save it in the end. Talk about an intense fight. After this one, I got my faith to 77 and took on some easier bosses. First off was Moonlight Butterfly, who I just smited out of the sky. Second was Gaping Dragon, who I killed with only 6 bolts on me. And last but not least, Priscilla, who weirdly enough didn't become visible after being hit by Wrath of the Gods. I figured it would do some poise damage, but I guess not. So after a single hit from my sword, she becomes visible, and after that, I use the remaining Wrath of the Gods and 1 Greater Lightning Spear to finish her off. Since I am Solaire of Ass, it's fitting to show off my beef jerky buns at least once. Once done showing off my hot buns, I grabbed the Slumbering Dragon Crest ring from Sin's Fortress, trade in Scully for the Fog ring, and take on Nito. Now, you might be thinking, why not just use the Tranquil Walk of Peace? Well, the buff doesn't last that long, which means I would have to constantly recast it, so it's just easier to use Slumbering Dragon Crest ring to get the job done. As you can see, I just face tank Nito while spamming lightning bolts at his face until he dies. With Nito dealt with, that just leaves the 4 kings, who I was still terrified to fight. With this fight being a DPS check and me having limited spells meant this wasn't going to be an easy win, which I was right for the most part. So at first, I thought the normal strategy of getting up close would be the ticket, but come to find out it caused more issues. It wasn't until my 3rd attempt where I found staying back and casting the spear was the safest option. So after losing that round, I finally came up with a plan. At the start of the fight, I would stay back and DPS the first king as fast as possible. Then for king 2 and 3, I would only use 3 casts per king and then finish them off with my sword, leaving the last king to be finished off normally. Which got terrifying near the end when the 5th king showed up, but luckily he stayed away and I was able to pull out the win. Also to note, I made sure to have the Sun Firstborn ring on for extra damage. With every boss defeated, that just means it's time to hit 99 in Faith and parry loop Gwyn to death, because like hell I want to fight his cheap ass normally. Which brings the Dark Souls 1 portion of the run to an end. The total runtime took 9 hours and 14 minutes, with me dying 36 times. Not too bad for a single stat run. Also, some of you might be wondering why didn't I get the Sunlight Straight Sword or another weapon to be infused with Divine, which would give it a B scaling in Faith. Well, in all truthfulness, I really didn't feel like going get white Titanite chunks and a slab. Plus, I was having fun problem solving with the tools I already had. Now with Dark Souls 1 finished, time to start Dark Souls 2. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Me! I'm currently working towards reaching 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and have been trying to think of a challenge run to celebrate that. Currently, I am working on my 50k special video where I have to beat Sekiro starting at NG plus 7 with base health, Demon Bell, and Charmless. So I am open to any crazy ideas that y'all may have, but with that said, let's get back to the Faith only run. Starting off in Dark Souls 2, I named my character Sunbro because it seems fitting. For the class, I went with the Sorcerer for the fact that it has 12 in attunement and 8 in adaptability to help with iframes, but also the 14 in intelligence so that I can have a chance to use hex spells. For the gift, I make sure to get the bonfire aesthetic so that I can fight Nachka twice. With character creation done, I run on over to Majula to get the Cleric Sacred Chime so that I can cast miracles. I then talk to Sad Bro to get the blue seal for a bit more HP, and then kill Mr. Douche because if I'm going to be a real bro, I'll need some douchey clothes. With my new fit in hand, I headed to Hyde's Tower, lure some enemies to the dragon so that it can weaken and kill a few of them, and for me to finish off the remaining ones, so that I could fight the dragon 1v1 to kill it. I did this to get early access to Ornstein and more importantly the souls. With the dragon dealt with, I used the ultimate Faith-Hex spell in the game, Gravity, to take out the Dragon Rider. I then talked to Female Patches to buy my first offensive spell, Lightning Spear, and immediately kill her right afterwards, netting me the Rotunda Lockstone and the Idol's Charm, which will come in handy later. Back at Majula, I used all the souls I acquired to get my Faith to exactly 22, which is the exact amount I need to be able to use Lightning Spear, which only has 3 uses in this game. That's a pretty big nerf from Dark Souls 1's 10 uses. I then head to the Forest of Fallen Giants to take on a giant of my own. 39 damage! That doesn't seem right. Definitely need more than that, but either way, 3 casts of Lightning Spears was not going to kill the last giant. So I had to finish him off with my trustful, faithful dagger. With the giant dead, I take on the Pursuer where I use the power of faith to pull the ballista trigger twice to kill her. Sun Bros are also American bros. In flying projectiles, we trust. After gunning down the Pursuer, I get my Chime to +3, level my Faith to 30, loot all the chests in Macduff's place, and then get my Chime to +4. With that done, I bro on over to Huntsman Copse to do a bit of parkouring to get the token of fidelity, so that I can join the Blue Sentinels, but first I needed to beat Ornstein to do that. Once again, 3 casts of Lightning Spears was not going to cut it. Probably should have bought some Amber Herbs, but you know, YOLO. Unfortunately, my dagger was on the verge of breaking near the end of the fight, so I switched to my chime, hoping it can get the job done, and I kid you not, it did more damage than the dagger. Like, I know it's a +4 chime and the dagger is +0, but still, I did not expect it to do 69 damage. My dagger was only doing 14 per hit. Never would have guessed beating someone over the head with a chime would be so effective. With Ornstein out of the picture, I bromanced the Blue Citadel with my token of fidelity, so that I could buy Heavenly Thunder, Emit Force, and most importantly, Bolt Stones, which I used to infuse my chime and dagger with to increase the chime's lightning damage and to give the dagger lightning damage. While I was at it, I got my chime to +6 and my dagger to +3. Once done upgrading, I headed to No Man's Wharf to talk to Magic Bro to buy some medicinal herbs off of him, and to get the fragrant branch of yore in the area. To use said yore to get access to the Shaded Woods, allowing me to get the Clear Bluestone Ring +1, Calanthe Ring +1, and the second Dragon Ring. After obtaining all the rings, I could take on Notchka, where I got to see how well Heavenly Thunder can perform. Overall, it's really good, but you have to hope the boss gets hit by more than one shot, since the lightning strikes are random, but when they do hit multiple times, it does some serious damage, which made lowering Notchka's health down super easy, allowing me to finish her off with my lightning dagger. But I'm not done here yet. So now I will use the bonfire ascetic to set the area to NG+, so that I can fight Notchka again. The reason I am doing this is when you beat Notchka on NG+, she will give you the +2 Southern Ritual Band, which will increase my spell slots by 3. The fun part though is I'm having to beat up a buffed up Notchka, and that wasn't so easy. She ended up killing me 5 times since she can basically one-shot me. The trick to this fight was making sure to bait out Notchka's tail attacks, giving me enough time to get closer to her and use Heavenly Thunder, which by doing this usually led to more lightning hitting her. The 2 attacks that were the most trouble were her Homing Soul Mass attack and her Dig attack. Mostly the Dig attack since it would just one-hit KO me, but luckily on my 6th attempt, I was finally able to survive long enough to win. With now having 4 spell slots, I can have Heavenly Thunder, Lightning Spear, and Emit Force on at the same time. Since I beat Notchka twice, this gave me a good amount of souls to spend, so I bought all 3 Bright Bugs and a Branch of Yore while getting my faith to 49. I then used the branch to take on the Ruined Sentinels, who so happened to be weak to lightning. Also found out Emit Force does some really good damage in Dark Souls 2. It actually did almost the same damage as Lightning Spear, which is a bit shocking since the Sentinels are weak to lightning and Emit Force is just physical damage. Sadly, I didn't have enough cast to finish off the last Sentinel with a spell, so I had to use my Lightning Dagger to finish the job to preserve the herbs for my more challenging fights, and my reward for beating the Sentinels is getting the Priest's Chime, which will carry me until I can get the Dragon Chime. The first thing that I do with it is Bolt Infuse it and get it to +6. After that, I use the remaining souls to buy the Cat Ring, so that I can fall down the well into the gutter where I can farm leech monsters for chunks. To then get the Priest Chime to +9 and then realize I need a slab. So I mosey on over to the Forest of Lost Giants to use a Pharaoh Stone to get 1, and now I have a +10 Chime. With all that work done, I reward myself by smiting the shit out of the Skeleton Lords. In this fight, Heavenly Thunder really shined because it practically one-shotted their entire army. After that, I finished the rest off with the dagger, giving me access to Harvest Valley, where I can talk to T-Swift to get Soul Appease, and join the Heirs of the Sun, which will give me the Sun Seal. The Sun Seal will increase my miracle damage by 5%. Now, the Covenant Rank 3 reward is the Sunlight Spear, but we'll come back to that later. I then blasted the Covetous Demon with Heavenly Thunder, and due to him being a thick old boy, it wasn't too hard to get multiple hits off to kill him quickly. Right after that was Miss Headless, where I used Lightning Spear and Emit Force to weaken her a good amount. I then used Heavenly Thunder, where it once again did some godly damage, but with it only leaving Mytha with a sliver of health, I just finished her off with the dagger. With those 2 easy bosses dealt with, I get my faith to 58. I then backtrack to Earthen Peaks because I missed an extra Lightning Spear that I can get. Also realizing at this time that I forgot to get the Disc Chime in the Grave of Saints. But first I have to deal with the Royal Rat Vanguard, which wasn't too hard when you have a spell that can nuke the entire room. Once the main rat came out, I just sniped him with Lightning Spear. With the rats taken care of, I do a precise jump to be able to get the Disc Chime. The reason I'm getting this chime is that when held in the player's hand, it will increase miracle damage by 3%. On top of that, it can be used as a shield. I figured after getting this bad boy, I needed to test it on someone, and there's no better test dummy than the Rotten. Overall, the damage increase didn't seem much, but anything that speeds up the fight faster helps. I started the fight off with just using Lightning Spear and Emit Force, which did lower the Rodden's health a good bit, but man, when I see Heavenly Thunder pop off, it's hard for me not to want to abuse it. Funny enough, after this fight, I actually bought the ladder that would allow me to get the Dragon Talon, but more importantly, Great Lightning Spear, but at the time I forgot it was even there, so I won't be getting it until later. Before leaving Majula, I get my faith to 65, and then test Soul Appease on Sunbro pledges. Soul Appease only works on hollows, but from what I can tell, it doesn't seem great until I used it on the congregation, and it actually worked really well against them. Except the ones with no feet. For some reason, it doesn't hit them. But once taking out the cripples, I just lightning speared the priests to death. Right after crashing the cult party, it was time for Freya, where I tried to use Heavenly Thunder on her, but it just would not land on her. First boss in this entire run that I can't abuse Heavenly Thunder with. Due to me really trying to get the spell to work, I caused my own death. Coming back in round 2, I got smart and just baited out Freya's Hyper Beam attack to smack her with Lightning Spear and Emit Force for the win. After that somewhat easy victory, I pick up the Bastille Key to light the 2 torches so that I can fight the Lost Sinner, who was not playing this go around because she killed me within under a minute. Round 2 on the other hand, I had the great start of getting multiple lightning spears off back to back, just melting the boss's HP bar. For a second, I thought she was going to have a comeback, but I was able to stop that real quick by just rolling backwards to get an easy cast in. Not being satisfied with that fight, I jumped right on over to Smelter Demon, who didn't take as much damage from Lightning Spear as I expected. Either way, Smelter Demon wasn't hard. All I had to do to get hits in was run around his attacks and then cast. Which, once again, I should have just used Heavenly Thunder from the start because just look at how much damage it does. Well, I say that, then the next cast kind of missed for a good while before killing him. Well, good thing I'm a Sun Bro because we like to gamble. Once Smelter was defeated by the power of gambling, I started smiting his boss, Old Iron King. And yeah, with ranged attacks, this wasn't much of a fight. Felt closer to target practice than fighting a boss. I will be eating those words in not too long. I also realized after this fight I had a lot of souls I didn't pop, so I started popping and I was able to get my faith to 99, which means no more leveling up from this point on. Speaking of realizing things, I finally got smart and went kill the giants down below to get the Forgotten Key and a soul of a giant. With the Forgotten Key, I busted down the doors to get the Great Lightning Spear, which only has 2 casts. Beautiful. With Great Lightning Spear acquired, I run on over to Drain Lake Castle to talk to Ghost Bro to buy some high-grade medicinal herbs off of him, and to talk to Old Man Bro in all 3 locations so that I can light 3 torches to fight Dark Lurker. Hold on, let me try again. To fight Dark Lurker. Now that's more like it. Dark Lurker is very weak to lightning. Combine this with a bright bug and his health bar just melts away. The really interesting thing that happened here was when Lurker was splitting apart, I used Heavenly Thunder for big damage, which I thought I killed him since the copy did die, but the original was still around with only 31 HP apparently. I never knew you could just kill the clone. I always thought you had to fight both of them until you won, but I guess not. With Dark Lurker easily dispatched, I can get the Dragon Chime from the old man as my reward. The Dragon Chime is the best chime for lightning damage, and not just because of its scaling in lightning, but for the fact it has the fastest casting speed as well, which just makes getting Lightning Spear off even easier. On top of that, you can infuse it with lightning to make it even deal more damage. Sadly, it needs Twinkling Titanite to upgrade it, so I need to get past Looking Glass Knight to be able to farm some. But before even that, I need to take out the Dragon Riders, which wasn't too hard when Lightning Spear alone almost killed both riders. Even Emit Force got some big number damage on the blue rider, and of course we had to finish off the run with the Gambling Goat, Heavenly Thunder. Before taking on Looking Glass Knight, I headed over to Ilium Lois to pick up a new spell called Splintering Lightning Spear, and if it's like the other Lightning Spears, it'll be great! I stand corrected. Probably by far the most flashiest spell, but what the fuck is that damage? This spell costs 50 faith to use, and a Lightning Spear that only costs 22 faith to use does more damage than it. You would think it would act similar to Heavenly Thunder with all the lightning strikes, but it really doesn't. I don't know what was going on when they developed this spell, but for a late game, high costing attack spell, this is very disappointing. What's also disappointing is my lack of game knowledge that I didn't know Looking Glass Knight has a high lightning resistance. Emit Force would have been the better option here, but I made what I had on me work. After that shit show, I bullied the local nerds for their shiny rocks so that I could fully upgrade Dragon Chime to +5 and then infuse it with lightning, which made killing the wildlife and Shrine of Amana a walk in the park. While walking in the park, I got Sunlight Blade that I won't really ever use, but I will smite the Demon of Song while it's singing. With Demon of Song being able to be damaged by its arms and head, and it Heavily Thunder was going to pop the fuck off. God, that damage is fucking beautiful. It wasn't long after that, the singing undead frog went down. Oh, before I forget, the Disc Chime is a chime, so it can be used to cast miracles as well, like Sunlight Blade onto my dagger, which did come in handy to take out trash mobs like this knight. Normally, at this point, I would take on Velstadt, but I needed to go beat up 2 more bosses again. First is the Old Iron King, who this time could actually one-shot me, which made for a very intense fight on the second go-around where I would barely survive some of his basic attacks. So I needed to kill him as fast as possible, and there was no better spell for the job than Heavily Thunder. Once the kings were defeated, he dropped the Old King's soul, which I could trade in for Binding Bolt. While I was at it, I got Life Drain Patch and the Ring of Knowledge. With that done, it was time for the second boss rematch, the Skeleton Lords. I figured Binding Bolt would be great to test out here since this spell shoots out a lightning orb that shoots out projectiles out of it. But sadly, the shots seem to be random and miss most of the time, leading me to die twice. I like how when female Patches uses this spell, it has no issues hitting me, but when I use it on a literal army, it just misses every time. So I just ended up using Lightning Spear and Heavily Thunder to get the job done. The reason I did all this was to get the clear Bluestone Ring +2 for faster casting times. After obtaining the ring, I headed to the Undead Crypt and unlocked the hidden door to a Ferrous Stone Lock to acquire another Great Lightning Spear, which means it's now time for Velstadt. At first I thought this was going to wipe the floor with him since I had 4 Great Lightning Spears, but my hubris got the better of me, not just once though, but twice. So I did the most logical thing to do at this point. Get even more cocky and go balls to walls because I'm a motherfucking sunbro, bitches! With Velstadt defeated, I can trade in his souls to get Sacred Oath, which costs 4 fucking spell slots to use, so I'm never using it. While at Trader Bro's shop, I got Dark Fog, Great Lightning Spear, and all 3 Rogue Waters he had. Once done shopping, I have an epic bout with Hex Bro for his headpiece, which ended in a draw, but I get to come back to life while he doesn't, so I win. The reason I waited this long to get the headpiece was for the fact I didn't know if I was going to buy any spells from him or not. As y'all can tell, I did not. With now having the headpiece, I go to Aldea's Keep, where I can now infinitely farm Crimson Water and Wilted Herbs, which I went over how in my Pyro Trilogy video and my Intelligence Only Run video. Having infinite casts means I can now blow past Guardian Dragon to bully the local gym bros with Great Resonance, which is a hex spell that takes 500 souls and uses it as damage. I am also not using a Dark Chime, and it's doing some decent damage. Once done bullying, I get the 3rd Dragon Ring and take on the Ancient Dragon. The strat for this fight was simple. Use Dark Fog to get poison off, and then spam Heavily Thunder and Lightning Spear. Now, for me to even use Dark Fog, I had to go to the Spice guy and use Simpleton Spice to lower the init requirement to 20, which, with me wearing the Ring of Knowledge and Hex Hood, puts my intelligence right at 20, allowing me to use Dark Fog, making this fight go way faster than it normally would. I was still enamored by Great Resonant at this point that I found if I talk to the old man again after getting the Dragon Chime, he will also give me Climax, which just sounds wrong out of context. So to test this spell out properly, I got the Idol's Charm from the beginning of this run to +5 and farmed spices from Lydia Witches to get Climax Init to 20. Climax is the strongest version of Resonant and it uses all of your souls when using it. Except, I didn't know that at the time because I pulled a bro moment and forgot to read the description. So I was very confused afterwards as to why I was only doing 33 damage to the gargoyles until I realized the spell used all my souls. Well, now I know. After that blunder, I just smited the little shits to death. At this point, I was nearing the end of the run, so I figured I should just go get the last 2 offensive miracle spells, Sunlight Spear and Wrath of the Gods. But the caveat to that is they are locked behind Covenant rank rewards. One revolving around helping players while the other PvP related. With how well the DS1 cooperation went, I decided to not even try that this time and just gave myself the materials I needed to get both spells. And with the new spells means I need a boss to test them on. The first boss I decided to go with was the Royal Rat Authority, and I made the fatal mistake of thinking Wrath of the Gods would be as fast as it was in Dark Souls 1, because I learned the hard way it isn't. Not too sure why they made it slower in this game. It only has 2 casts and only does physical damage, but with the slow cast time I ended up dying 4 times. On attempt 5, I got smart and just used Lightning Spear for the pups. After that, I could finally use Wrath of the Gods, and the damage did not disappoint. But with only 2 casts, it wasn't enough to kill. So I had to finish off the rat dogs with Sunlight Spear. And speaking of Sunlight Spear, it literally destroyed Flexile Sentry's HP bar. The third cast was completely overkill, but hold on, it's not done yet. Even Giant Lord could not handle the overwhelming power of Sunlight Spear. I felt bad for the poor guy, so I started giving him a chance with me using Wrath of the Gods. But even with that assistance, he still couldn't get the job done and kill me. With the Giant King dead, I get the remaining 2 Giant Souls to Sunlight Spear Vendrick to death, which means it's time for the DLC boss rush. And first up on the list is Ava. My lord, is this cat weak to anything? Base game bosses just melt to Sunlight Spear, but this overgrown cat is barely being tickled by it, and I'm dead. Well, in round 2, I tested Wrath of the Gods, and it did okay damage. What's not so great about using this spell is that with it being relatively slow, it really isn't safe to use. Surprisingly, the same went for Heavenly Thunder, and it has a bit of a faster cast time, which ended up forcing me to rely on Sunlight Spear to get Ava's HP low enough to finish it off with Wrath of the Gods. I did learn from this fight that I'll have to rely heavily on Lightning Spear for the DLC bosses. I move on to the Ivory King next, and come to find out his minions were harder to deal with than him. Not only did I do low damage to them, but a good chunk of the time my attacks would hit their shields, just negating most of the damage, leading to the entire army being out in full force and just causing non-stop chaos. The worst part on the first round was that I lost my minion, giving the Ivory King the opportunity to slap me silly. So after that defeat, I figured why not try Great Resonant, maybe it will do more damage to the soldiers? Nope, it did less. I was somehow able to make it through that fight with my minion this time, but honestly I thought it was just checkmate for me at this point. I only had 1 lightning spell, which Ivory King is weak to, and figured the dark damage wouldn't do much, but with how fast I could get Great Resonant off, it actually helped to deal some decent damage, allowing me to get more than half of his HP off before the minion died. So it should be easy from here. Oh god. I made multiple close calls at this point where I was barely able to make it by, like a lot of close calls. But I just kept riding that Lady Luck's metaphorical dick to ensure my safety, and all that giddy upping paid off because right when Ivory King had the chance to kill me, he went for a power up, giving me the opportunity to pull off the second try win, leading to a very satisfying climax. What ruined that happy ending was DS2 randomly changing my resolution settings upon reopening the game without telling me, but OBS made sure to capture all of it. So for Lud and Zalin, Blue Smelter Demon, Fume Knight, and Sur alone, my footage of those fights was ruined, and the only reason I found out was because I wanted to go look back at one of the Sur alone fights. If it wasn't for that, I would have ruined the rest of the footage. At first, I wasn't going to go back and retry these fights again because it really pissed me off, but once I cooled down, I went back to the game, used a bonfire aesthetic, then modded the zone level to put it back to 1, so that I could refight all 4 bosses again without starting a whole new game. Alright, with all that bullshit out of the way, Lud and Zalin was up first. The strategy for this fight was using Bright Bug, then using 3 Sunlight Spears, and then 2 Greater Lightning Spears. This will just put Lud's HP just low enough to not summon Zalin. I would then get my cast back and wait for a good time to get 3 more Sun Spears off, leaving Lud with a sliver of health left to die to a Greater Spear. With Lud out of the picture, I just lowered Zalin's health to about halfway. I stopped at half so it doesn't set off his rage mode and gives me time to get a Bright Bug off. With now having the increased attack when Zalin goes into his rage state, I can just DPS him down, stopping his bullshit healing. This took 13 attempts on my first go-around. I will not be counting the second go-around since I shouldn't have had to do it in the first place. With that cat duo dealt with, I moved on to Smelter Demon, who I just used Dark Fog on in combination with Sunlight Spear. I would get the poison off to help with tick damage and then use Sunlight Spear for big damage, which made for an easy first try. Speaking of first tries, Fume Knight was even easier with just using Lightning Spears while dodging backwards. It was just as simple as that. There's really nothing else to talk about. Up next after this was Sir Alone, who I actually fought differently on my second win. On my first win, I used ranged attacks only, which made the fight a lot harder, leading me to die 24 times. But this time, I decided to use Sunlight Blade with the dagger and greater resonance, and it was much easier this time around. With how fast the dagger is, I could easily get hits off while being able to dodge away safely. So once the buff ran out, his HP was so low I could finish him off with just great resonance. The reason for great resonance is due to its fast cast time. The lightning spear's recovery time was just giving me trouble on my first go around, so when I came back this time, I knew great resonance would be a better fit for this fight. Alright, with that situation over with and fixed, we'll move back on track. Which leads to me beating up an undead horse with Life Drain Patch, Great Resonance, and Wrath of the Gods. Life Patch is a spell you get from Dark Lurker's Soul that allows you to summon a Dark Orb at the cost of 3,000 souls, which allows it to do its maximum damage. Overall, an okay spell. Wrath of the Gods and Resonance are much better from what I have seen. With the horse dead, time for the last DLC, starting with Alana, who is a pain in the ass this time around. With her explosions, constant range attacks, and having minions, it was not a great time. I ended up dying 5 times. I think the mistake I made here was trying to go full range. I think I should have just gone melee with this one and used Sunlight Blade with the dagger. Alana has very easy melee attacks to deal with. I do think killing her this way would have been easier, but I didn't think to do that this time around, so I just stubbornly won with lightning spears. Leading to my next foe, Sin the Dragon, and like all dragons, Sin is weak to range attacks, especially when he's in the sky. By far my favorite moment in this run was sniping this dude out of the sky. For the final DLC boss, I cheesed the gank squad because I was extremely annoyed with DS2 at this point and just wanted to get it over with. Once done gooning, I used Bright Bug to just annihilate Throne Watcher and Defender. With beating them so fast, I actually got to keep my buff, which made Nassandra die just as fast as Tweedledee and Tweedledum. For Aldia, I had the great idea of killing him with Climax, thinking I could make a really funny joke with it, but Climax damage wasn't too great, and I ended up dying in the process of it. So, after being blue-balled by the game, I just finished this run with Sunlight Spear. The total runtime for Dark Souls 2 was 19 hours and 4 minutes, with a grand total of 88 deaths. Not too shabby for a single stat run, might actually be a PR for me. Also, for those wondering why I didn't get the Lightning Clutch ring, I knew the damage increase wasn't going to be worth the extra damage taken, since the DLC bosses could pretty much one-shot me and I didn't want to help them with that. But, with that said, it's time to jump into Dark Souls 3. It was about 10 months ago. Jesus, where the fuck did the time go? Anyways, 10 months ago, I attempted Dark Souls 3 Faith only, and at that time, it was my first time getting back into the game since 2016, which meant I practically knew nothing about the game anymore and ended up not being able to finish the DLC. So now, this time, I came to exact my revenge and redeem myself as a challenge runner. With that said, for the starting class, I went with the Assassin since it starts with 2 spell slots, and for the fact that it has 14 dex, which will be helpful for a few faith weapons that I'll be able to use. I then named my character Slayer of Ass the Second. Lord Ass the Second arises from the dirt, collects his ashen flask, and eats some Gundyr ass to satisfy his booty-eating urges that he inherited from his father. Once done with breakfast, I do the usual get-up of getting the Silver Serpent rings, but also this time I get Twinkling Titanite from the Crystal Lizard at the top of Firelink Shrine, and another from trading a Prism Stone to the birds. Comment down below if you know which weapon I am getting ready for. Before leaving, I get my faith to 12 and then head to the high walls to get Gold Pine Resin, pick up the Astora Straight Sword, nab some Undead Hunter Charms, eat some Granny Poon Poon, and bully Vort with a Lightning Astock. Granted, I probably should have used the Astora Straight Sword instead since it would have made the fight go a lot faster, but this is what happens when you're trying to go fast. After the fight, I make sure to get the Alluring Skulls for a later boss. Talk to a retired Ninja Turtle so that I can get Dark Blade in a bit, level up my faith to 16, head back to Undead Solomon to get Warrior of the Sunlight Covenant, some Titanite Shards, and use Spook so that I can make it down the short cliff. The reason for coming down here is to get the Saint's Talisman, which will be my main source of casting spells for a good portion of this run. After getting the Talisman, I talk to an innocent blind chick who I need to get spells from the light side and the dark side. Leaving that conversation knowing that I'm on par with Anakin Skywalker, I meet up with everyone's favorite Onion to slay some demon ass. As tradition goes on this channel, we sit and drink with Onion Bro. Cheers everyone, I hope your day is going well. Once done drinking on the job, I grab the Flynn's ring and Chloranthy ring. I then head back to Firelink Shrine to buy the Saint's ring for an extra attunement slot, and homeward for some easy fast traveling. After shopping, I make it to the Road of Sacrifice where I butcher a growing family of undead dogs to get the Mornay's ring for some extra miracle damage. I then go a bit further down the road to get the Sage ring to help with casting speed. I then walk on over to Farron Keep to get some Twinkling Tynite, the Dream Chase's Ashes, some large Tynite, and most importantly, Lightning Spear for my first offensive spell. Back at Firelink, I get my talisman to +4 and level my faith up to 20 so that I can use Lightning Spear, which didn't do as much damage as I would have liked it to. But that could be because Stray Demon is made of stone. Either way, I killed the stone bastard to further increase my faith to 26, which meant it was boss time. Oh, well, I guess Lightning Spear isn't as good as it was in the last two games because 202 damage up close with a ring boosting miracle damage is very low. Also, for those who do not know, lightning spells do more damage the closer you are to the enemy, and with this low of damage, the Crystal Sage got the better of me. Honestly, I made a better play on my first go around where I used Dark Blade against the Crystal Sage, but I just decided for round 2 to just go nude with the Astora Straight Sword, Gold Pine Resin, and Flynn's Ring, which did okay. Dark Blade would have been the better choice, but I was able to make this work. With that done, I take out the 2 Crystal Lizards for some more Twinkling Tynite, tested Lightning Spear some more, and still wasn't happy with its low damage. I sadly moved on to the Cathedral where I picked up Saint Tree Belvine. Saint Tree Belvine, when held in the player's hand, will increase the player's casting speed. Essentially the Sage Ring, but without taking up a ring slot. Also, killed another lizard here for a shard. Continuing through the Cathedral, I kill the giants for their large Tynite shards, get some new clothes, and pick up Saint Bident. Saint Bident is a spear type weapon that has a C in face scaling, which is the main reason for getting it. After getting my new weapon, I put on my new fit, and I'm really digging it for some reason. No clue why, I just really like it for some reason. I then use Undead Hunter Charm to get Deep Burrell Divine Tome, so that I can give it to the blind chick so that I can buy Deep Protection, which just sounds like a type of condom you would buy at a sketchy gas station, and gnaw because I'll be gnawing on that. With the shards I gathered, I get Saint Biden, the 46th president, to +4. I then hit up the retired Ninja Turtle to learn the arts of the dark side, which will summon the Ninja Turtle's female assistant, who will sell me a tome that will let me buy Dark Blade. But I'm a bit broke at the moment, so I went visit the Redwood Tree, aka Travis Kelce's, well, go listen to Wood by Taylor Swift and you'll get my drift. With now having 10k souls, I buy Dark Blade, obligating me now to take on the Dancer. The fight is very straightforward. Pop Deep Protection for the damage and defense boost, then apply Dark Blade for dark damage, and then poke away at Dancer's booty until she goes into her phase 2. Once she is in phase 2, I switch to Gnaw for range attacks and for the fact Dancer can be bled, so after 3 hits of the spell, it will proc bleed. So I just had to run away and use Gnaw for an easy first try. The reason for taking on Dancer early is that I can get Sunlight Straight Sword after this, which is the strongest Faith melee weapon in the game. After the fight, I level my Faith to 42, do the usual pickup of Tynite chunks, also make sure to grab some of the Twinkling Tynite in the area and use the Undead Hunter Charm to get the Sunlight Straight Sword. The Sunlight Straight Sword is like any other straight sword, but it has a Faith scaling which can reach to a B at +5, and the most important thing is its weapon art, Oath of Sunlight. This grants the player an 11.5% AR increase and 10% bonus to damage absorption for 45 seconds. The great thing about this buff is that it can be stacked with Deep Protection, unlike Sacred Oath. The caveat to this is that you need to cast Oath of Sunlight first and then Deep Protection. If you do it the other way around, Oath of Sunlight will cancel out Deep Protection. On top of all of this, it uses Twinkling Tynite to be upgraded, so if you guessed Sunlight Straight Sword in the comments, you are correct. With the amount of shards I had, I got the sword to +3 and then tested out this bad boy on the locals. Once done practicing, I get the nice ring so that for certain fights I can single hand the sword. Also, while here, I find the Sunlight Altar, which if I get to rank 1 and 2, I could get Great Lightning Spear and Sacred Oath, but I won't be doing that just yet. Wanting to get my talisman to +5, I headed on over to Consume King's Garden to kill the oversized slugs to get large Titanite shards to do the upgrade. And with that done, I was ready for the Abyss Watchers. For the Watchers, I made sure to get Oath and Deep Protection off, and then apply Dark Blade for maximum damage. When the other Watchers came out, I would use Gnaw from a safe distance to take them out. Besides that, it was just some simple R1 spams and backstabs to beat phase 1. I then copied the same strat to beat phase 2. The Watchers were so easy, I just ran over to Walnir to slap his wrist a couple of times and he went down. Shocker. So after that, I went to Smoldering Lake to watch Solaire die for a second time, so that I could get probably the best lightning spell in the entire game, Lightning Stake. And who better to try it out on than the old Demon King? But first, I wanted to weaken him with Dark Blade, since he is weaker to dark damage than lightning. So once weakened, I went to town on him with Lightning Stake. With old Demon King dead, I get my faith to 57, collect all the large shards in the area as well as Twinkling Titanite, which then made me realize I missed a few at Lotric's castle, so I made sure to go get those 3 that I missed. With all those shards, I got my talisman to +9 and my sword to +4. Even with having my weapons nearly maxed out, I was missing a few rings and spells that I wanted before I went and got the Titanite slabs. Which leads me to the deacons who were hard countered by a Lightning Stake. When the main deacon came out, I made sure to use Alluring Skull to distract the basic deacons so that I could just wail on the main D. I just found out about this recently that the skulls work here, and this would have been a lifesaver on so many of my other runs. After blowing up the deacons, I go to Irithyll to kill a thick witch to get Dora's Gnawing, which is much stronger version of Gnawing. While here, I also make sure to get the Ring of the Sun's Firstborn for more miracle damage. During my trek through the lovely city, I found out that I missed Onion Knight back at the cathedral, so I went back and rescued him so that he would give me the spell Emit Force for helping him out. With that done, I go to Irithyll Dungeon where I kill a mimic for the Dark Clutch Ring, pick up the Lightning Blade along the way, and headed to the Profane Capital to get Wrath of the Gods. Alright, that was a good bit of chores done. Time to get a Titanite slab, and one of the bosses standing in my way is Father of the Year. Of course, I go with Lightning Stake since Osiris is weak to lightning and for the fact it just does absurd damage when it hits. How I keep missing, I do not know. Also, this is where I want to ask y'all a question. Does Lightning Stake hit enemies twice and that's what makes it do a lot of damage? Or was it because Osiris was in the water? Because I got him for 1600 when he was standing in the water, but another time not in the water I got 1700. Which is weird because most of the time I was only hitting him for 900. I'm not really sure what's going on, but someone down below might. I also tried Emit Force here and the damage wasn't too great. So I just went back to Lightning Stake to finish the job. With Osiris staked to death, I get the Path of the Dragon, level my faith to 62, and take on Gundyr. So this fight was supposed to be stupid easy with me just running away, spamming Doris Gnawing to proc bleed on the big fella for big damage, which was working until the very end. I had the bright idea to use Emit Force where Gundyr hard countered me with his charge attack to two-shot me. Emit Force, you were so good in Dark Souls 1 and 2. Why did they do this to you? Coping on my own skill issues, I did this strategy again without Emit Force this time and won, earning me the Coiled Fragment that can be traded in for a slab, allowing me to get a +10 talisman. Almost forgetting at this point I should go get the Lightning Clutch Ring, I meditated on over to Archdragon's Peak to get said ring, and while I was here, I killed a dragon, giving me enough souls to get my faith to 68. With that done, I felt ready to take on Sexy Toes, aka Sister Frida. Or maybe not. I don't think I remember the last time I died to Frida's first phase. Normally I struggled with phase 2, which I 100% did, but I didn't expect most of my deaths to come from phase 1. I ended up dying a total of 12 times. The strategy that I came up with for this fight was to bait out Frida's jump attacks to get a backstab off, and right after that backstab, switch to Saint Tree Bellvine so that I could get Lightning Stake off in time to do big damage. The reason for not two-handing the sword is that most of the time when I would do that, I wouldn't be able to switch in time to get the Lightning Stake off. I then just repeated this for a quick first phase. For phase 2, it was all about pressure. Normally I would stop Frida from healing Father, but since I could do so much damage with Lightning Stake, I just chose to ignore her to DPS Father down. Before phase 3 would start, I would make sure to reapply my buffs. For For this phase, I did a mix of just using lightning stake and the backstab tactic. I found in some cases it was better to just get lightning stake off than go for the backstab, since the backstab could miss from time to time. This plan worked really well. At the end, I did run out of mana, but I just needed to get one more backstab with a follow-up hit to secure the victory. After the fight, I get my faith to 71 and easily beat Pontiff. Shit, cut to the wind, quick! You see, definitely a first try, no editing shenanigans here, none at all. As you can see, the riposte lightning stake combo decimated Pontiff into oblivion. I then move on to Aldrich, who I also bullied with lightning stake. Probably the easiest first try I have ever had on. Afterwards, I was going to kill Yorshka for her chime, but I figured I killed her last time, there's no reason to do it this time. So I went to Sunlight Altar and traded in the Sunlight medals that I 100% grinded for to get Great Lightning Spear and Sacred Oath. It was also at this moment that I re-looked up Yorshka's chime and noticed it does the most miracle damage in the entire game. So I switched to the dark side, got her Covenant rewards, and killed her for her chime. Because I want power, and if that means I have to pull an Order 66, I will do it, damn it. After getting my chime to +10, I fought Yorm, who I could posture break with 2 Great Lightning Spears, and once he was vulnerable, I would use Lightning Stake. The mistake I made here was I could have gotten a riposte off after the Lightning Stake, but at the time I didn't notice. It would have sped the fight up a bit, but either way, it wasn't that hard of a fight. A fight that also should have been easy was Dragon Slayer Armor, which it would have been if I just used Dark Moon Blade and Sunlight Straight Sword, but I really wanted to use Wrath of the Gods and Emit Force. Since Dragon Slayer has high resistance to lightning and those 2 spells do physical damage, I figured they would be a good match for this fight. Except I thought Wrath of the Gods would have DS1 casting speed, but come to find out it has DS2's casting speed. So it ended up causing my death most of the time. On my 5th attempt, I got Wrath of the Gods off without dying and then went for Emit Force, which disappointed me again with its low damage output. So after dying here, I just had enough and went in with Flynn's Ring, Magic Clutch Ring, Lloyd Sword Ring, and the Chloranthy Ring to just bully the shit out of Dragon Slayer. The fight barely lasted 30 seconds. With that win, I get my faith to 77 and take on the Nameless King. I decided to go Great Lightning Spear to deal with the chicken and Lightning Stake. Except I never got an opportunity to use the stake since I killed the oversized bird before he could use his Fire Breath attack, which would have been the best opening to use the stake. During the chicken fights, I had Lightning Clutch Ring on, so I made sure to take it off before fighting Nameless King, since I won't be using lightning on him and there's no need to take the extra damage for no reason. The Nameless strat was the same as Gundyr, just run away and spam Doris Gnawing, which is even easier on Nameless since he'll just walk most of the time towards you, so it made for an easy first try. Looking at my character in the cutscene, I think I now know why I like how he looks. The outfit reminds me of Bloodborne or possibly even Assassin's Creed. Once done trying to figure out one of the many mysteries of the world, I trade in Nameless Soul for Lightning Storm, which means I need someone to test it on like the Lautrec twins. Lightning Storm is similar to Lightning Stake, but after it hits, it sends an electric shockwave on the floor, dealing even more damage to the enemies nearby it. And as you can see, it just melts the Elder Brother's HP away, but that's not going to stop me from dying because I am a Cain after all, and I will find a way to die. Since I died, that means I can use the speedrunner strategy of just hanging out by the door, sniping the Elder Brother to make for an easy phase 1. And with me killing the brother by the door, I could continue the same strategy. Sadly, this wouldn't kill the Elder Brother this time, meaning I would have to fight them normally, so I went for attacking the Elder Brother with Great Lightning Spear to knock him down so I could use Lightning Storm on the younger brother, and as the Elder Brother would be revived, I would use Lightning Storm to drop his HP real quick. This was the winning strategy, but luck wasn't always on my side. I ended up dying 9 times. Finally, on attempt 10, I got some good RNG where I was doing very high damage to the Elder Brother, where I was able to knock him down repeatedly, making this a very quick fight. Also, what the hell happened at the end here? After hitting them with Lightning Spear, they just popped to the other side. No clue how that happened or why it happened, but it happened. With the twins dead, I placed the heads on the thrones and bathed in their ashes to fight the Soul Descender, aka Gwen, but is weak to lightning in this game as I am weak to a giant metal spear hitting me across the head and chest. For phase 1, I just focus on attacking with the sword since I find fighting him with range in this phase a bit more difficult. My only mistake besides getting hit was not equipping the Knight's Ring to single-hand attack. When two-handing, you can technically do more damage, but in Dark Souls 3, with how fast you can attack with one-handed weapons, you can actually out-DPS faster with one hand than when you're using two, which leaves your other hand free to do as it please. Even with that mistake, I was still able to beat Phase 1, and if you couldn't guess, I used Doris in Phase 2. I do find it weird that Cinder can be bled, because isn't he just like Dragon Slayer where he's just a walking armor? Well, either way. With him being able to be bled and how easy he is to deal with range in his second phase, it was pretty much a guaranteed win. With Cinder dead, I level my faith to 83 and trade in his soul for Sunlight Spear. Which brings us to the next boss that I will not use this new spell on at all since they are weak to dark as I am weak to being fisted from behind. Okay, the second death confused me because I am past his fist clearly near his coochie and I still get hit. Some grade A bullshit on that one, but finally on round 3 I stopped getting fisted for a bit to pimp sword slap the bitches to death. For Demon Prince I once again used Doris because it's just too busted not to use, and I am trying to make this run as easy as possible. With the Demon Prince bled to death, I start spamming Midir's hand to knock him off a cliff. Also, I don't think I've ever explained this before, but if you just walk under Midir near his mouth, you can bait out his beam attack, which makes it super easy to get hits in. This is how I've knocked him down in all my previous runs. After knocking down Midir, I run through some invisible walls to get Lightning Arrow, which I get to use on Midir. Lightning Arrow is a low mana cost range spell, so it's nice to use to get a lot of hits in quick from a bit of range. Now, when I was close to Midir, like after he would do his beam attack, I would use Lightning Stake to get some big damage in. Except sometimes it wouldn't do big damage. This is what makes me think the spell does hit twice to deal more damage and that sometimes I just missing the second hit because I did 932 the first time, but only did 529 the second time. Besides the Lightning Strike conundrum, I would also use Sunlight Spear, which would do really good damage, but man, does it use a shit ton of mana. I actually used this spell too many times on my winning attempt, causing me to run out of flask and mana, leading to a nail-biter finish where I almost died right after the visceral attack, but luckily I was able to save it to get one more hit off to win on my 5th attempt. After that win, I get my faith to 88, abuse Doris on Half-Light so that I don't have to try on that half-ass boss design, and then take on Gale, who heard me talking shit and got a world PR kill on a player. I don't think anyone has ever died this fast to Gale before. On round 2, I started off with using Lightning Stake and even using Doris, but noticed the damage wasn't great and that if I kept using them, I would run out of flasks quick. So I switched to melee for phase 1 to preserve the rest of mana for phase 2 and 3. Once in phase 3, I switched to Doris to get bleeds off, which funny enough was easier to do in this phase than in phase 1. In phase 1, Gale jumps around a lot more, whereas in phase 2 and 3, he just walks most of the time. So it made hitting him with spells a lot easier. I thought this was going to be a walk in the park at this point, but I must have used a bit too much mana in the first phase and ran out near the end. On top of that, I started getting hit by some of his attacks, leading me to running out of Estus. At this point, I did start to panic, but in that moment of distress, I remembered I had a hidden blessing that I could use. So when Gale did his scream attack, I hurry up and open my menu to use it, allowing me to get some more bleeds off, which would have killed him, but a few of the shots missed and I got nipped, leaving me one shot away from death, meaning I had to finish the fight with the sword without getting hit. And I'm happy to say luck was on my side that day. With Gale defeated, that means there's only one boss left. So I get my faith to 99 to finish the run off. And what better boss to finish on than the one who stopped me 10 months ago? Fuck the commentary, I'm just going to let this one play out. Enjoy. And with that, the Dark Souls trilogy Leveling Faith Only comes to an end. The total runtime for Dark Souls 3 was 14 hours and 21 minutes, with a grand total of 62 deaths. With that said, let's get into the rankings. Coming in last place for Faith Only run is Dark Souls 1. As much as I like DS1, the miracle options were very limited on what you could do and left me wanting more from the game. Still a fun run, but just needed a bit more variety. For second and first, this was very hard for me because I could see DS2 and DS3 in either or, but I ended up putting Dark Souls 3 in second place. I think DS3 had a lot of variety with it, but a lot of spells can overly dominate the whole run like Lightning Stake and Doris, where it started to make every boss fight feel the same. Which does go the same for DS2 with like Heavily Thunder and all that. I just wanted to use other spells, but I knew it just wouldn't be efficient if I did. Now, coming in first place, which is a shock to me as it is to all of you, is Dark Souls 2. This is pretty big because DS2 is my least favorite out of the entire series, so it did a lot of things right here to be number 1. The two major things for me putting in first was the variety of spells that could be used for bosses, and the most important, the RPG side where I could wear armor or use spices to allow me to use spells that had high init. With both of these things, it just made for a very fun experience. Well, until I got to the DLC, but I can look past that. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my run, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Ardain Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.